holographic sigils of conquered worlds pulsed above the Senate floor, casting shifting patterns across the assembled dignitaries. Ambassador Elias Carter adjusted his collar as he stepped onto the speaking platform. The scar along his jawline pulling tight, the air smelled of ozone and something faintly metallic. Vorak pheromones, he guessed. Around him, the tiered seating curved upward like the jaws of some great beast, filled with representatives from 100 species. The Zephyrians coiled in their liquid-filled pods. The crystalline Tharans refracted light in uneasy patterns, and at the apex, upon a throne of blackened bone, sat Emperor Vexis the Unbroken. 4 crimson eyes tracked Carter's every movement. The Vorak ruler's armored bulk barely fit the massive chair, his carapace gleaming like oil under the chamber lights. When he spoke, the words vibrated through the floor. Humanity stands accused. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Senator Krellis, silver scales rippling with amusement, slithered forward on his repulsor disc. The evidence is undeniable. Your colonies encroach on restricted zones. Your ships violate quarantine sectors. Your scientists tamper with forbidden technologies. Carter kept his breathing steady. He'd expected this. The Vorak Empire had been looking for an excuse since the Martian uprising. These are fabrications, he said, voice carrying across the chamber. We've adhered to every... Vexis raised a clawed hand. The chamber fell silent. Your denials are irrelevant. The vote has already been taken. A hologram flickered to life above the Senate floor, the emblem of the Galactic Federation, now stamped with the Vorak sigil. The words scrolled beneath in 100 languages, unanimous decision. Krellis hissed laughter. Your species is declared a threat to galactic order. Earth will submit to Vorak governance immediately. Carter's stomach turned to ice. Unanimous. That meant even their supposed allies had betrayed them. He glanced toward the Krillian delegation. Ambassador Veln had promised support, but the avian diplomat refused to meet his gaze. You can't do this, Carter said. The Accords guarantee... The Accords. Vexis leaned forward, his throne crackling with dark energy. You cling to parchment while we hold the guns. Your fleets are dust. Your weapons are toys. The Emperor's voice dropped to a whisper that carried through the entire chamber. Kneel or be erased. For a heartbeat, Carter considered the datapad in his pocket. The emergency codes, the last message from Earth Command. Hold the line. He straightened his jacket. We don't kneel, the chamber erupted. Krellis's scales flashed crimson. Vexis merely nodded, as if he'd expected nothing else, then witnessed the consequences. Vorak guards materialized from the shadows, hulking brutes in obsidian armor. Carter didn't resist as they seized his arms. He'd done his job. The signal had been sent the moment the vote appeared. As they dragged him away, he caught snippets of conversation. Primitive bravado. Wiped out within the cycle. Should have taken the mercy, Carter smiled. They still didn't understand. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their ships or their guns. It was their memory. The guards shoved him into a transport pod through the closing hatch. He saw Krellis watching with smug satisfaction. Carter mouthed 2 words the Zephyrian wouldn't understand. Blackout protocol. The pod sealed shut just as the first alarms began to wail across Zentha Prime. Somewhere in the dark between stars, ancient systems stirred to life. The alarms screamed through New Horizons' dome, like a dying animal. Lieutenant Mara Voss sprinted down the colony's central corridor, her cybernetic arm whirring as she shoved panicked civilians toward the evacuation shuttles. The overhead panels flickered between emergency red and the sickly purple of Vorak plasma fire burning through the atmospheric shields. Move now, she barked at a group of miners frozen in terror. One of them, a grizzled man with a broken nose, grabbed her sleeve. They're hitting the spaceport next, we're dead either way. Voss yanked free. Then we die running. Go. Outside the reinforced viewports, the sky burned. Vorak drop. Pods streaked through the smoke like falling teeth, slamming into the colony's perimeter. Each impact sent tremors through the deck plating. The comms in her ear crackled. Boss, this is Control. We've got 90 seconds before their main fleet finishes orbital alignment. Last shuttle lifts in 60. She cursed, shoving open a maintenance hatch. Understood, initiating blackout protocol. The mining colony's underlevels stank of ozone and stale coolant. Voss boots splashed through ankle, deep runoff as she descended, the emergency lights casting jagged shadows. Behind her, the distant screams of colonists, cut off abruptly as a section of the dome collapsed. She reached the secure vault, a reinforced bunker marked with faded yellow warnings. The biometric scanner flashed red twice before accepting her credentials. The door hissed open, revealing a single console humming with dormant power. Her fingers flew over the keys. The screen flickered to life, displaying a single prompt: blackout protocol. Confirm Wi-Fi. A tremor rocked the facility. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere above, the Vorak shock troops were breaching the final barricades. She could already hear the screech of their plasma cutters. Voss slammed her palm on the console. The machine beeped once. Then the entire colony went dark. Not just the lights, everything. The distant thrum of reactors died. The vibration of life support ceased. Even the emergency strips winked out, plunging her into perfect blackness. For 3 heartbeats, there was silence. Then the Vorak came. She heard them before she saw them, claws scraping metal, the wet click of their mandibles. The first one rounded the corner, its spiked carapace glistening under the faint glow of its own luminescent markings. 4 eyes locked onto her. Pathetic creature, it hissed in guttural galactic common. You think darkness saves you? Voss didn't answer. She raised her cybernetic arm, the joints whining as the fingers retracted, revealing the barrel of an integrated plasma cutter. The Vorak laughed, a sound like grinding bones. One human, one weapon, against the might of the Vorak Empire. More shapes moved in the dark. 5-10 too many. Voss smiled. You're right, it's not enough. She pulled the trigger. The blast wasn't aimed at the Vorak. It hit the console behind her, sparks flying as the system overloaded. The vault's emergency lighting flared to life. Not the soft glow of human tech, but the searing blue, white of ancient radiation warnings. And the message began to transmit. A deep, resonant pulse thrummed through the colony's foundations, shaking loose panels from the walls. The Vorak staggered, their sensitive hearing assaulted by the subsonic frequency. What have you done? The lead Vorak snarled. Voss watched the console's display. The signal wasn't powerful, not on its own. But New Horizon was just one of dozens of outer colonies, and every one of them had a blackout protocol. You think this is victory? She said, bracing herself as the tremors grew stronger. You just woke the wolf. The transmission hit light speed. Far away, in the silent dark between stars, something answered. The mining rig's alarms blared as Admiral Thalia Cole guided the USN Olympus through the debris field. Pluto's frozen surface stretched below, pockmarked with ancient impact craters and the scars of forgotten battles. Her fingers tightened around the command chair's armrests as the ship's sensors pinged wildly. Rear port, she snapped. Lieutenant Cho adjusted his headset, eyes darting across the holographic display. Massive energy signatures beneath the ice. Admiral, not natural, and not Vorak. Cole leaned forward. Show me. The main screen flickered, revealing a grainy scan of something massive kilometers long, buried under millennia of frozen nitrogen. Its outline was jagged, angular, unmistakably human in design, but unlike any ship in the modern fleet. God in heaven, whispered Commander Ruiz from the tactical station. That is not just a wreck, it is intact. Cole's pulse quickened. She'd seen schematics in the classified archives, blueprints marked Guardian Class, Project Midnight. The First Fleet, lost during humanity's first interstellar war 3 centuries ago, wiped out defending the outer colonies. Or so the history files claimed. Prep the excavation team, Cole ordered. Full hazard protocols, and get me a secure channel to Earth Command. Cho hesitated. Admiral, we're getting a transmission from the derelict. Static hissed across the comms before resolving into a voice, smooth, synthetic, tinged with the faintest echo of humanity. Identity confirmed. Admiral Thalia Cole, United Earth Stellar Navy, authorization code required. Cole's breath caught. The system shouldn't have recognized her. Project Midnight predated modern command structures by 200 years. She input her code anyway. The ice sheet trembled. Cracks spider-webbed across Pluto's surface as enormous black shapes began to rise. First one, then 3, then 12 kilometer. Long dreadnoughts, their hulls scarred but unbroken. Reactors humming back to life after centuries of silence. A hologram flickered to life on the Olympus's bridge, a humanoid figure with glowing blue eyes, its form shifting like smoke. "I am Echo, Faye last operational AI of the USN Titan," it said. "You are under attack." Cole's jaw tightened. The Vorak Empire hit our outer colonies. They're coming for Earth. Echo Faye's form pulsed. Pattern recognized threat assessment. Critical Guardian fleet reactivation at Faye and climbing. Ruiz swore under his breath as more ships emerged, their weapon ports flickering online. "Admiral, there were never just 12 Guardians. The ice is full of them." Cole watched as the Titan's main cannon, a spinal, mounted weapon the size of a city block, aligned itself with the stars. "They didn't destroy us last time," Echo Faye said. "They won't now." The comms crackled again. This time, it was Captain Blake's voice, strained with urgency. "Olympus, come in." Vorak Advance Fleet just jumped into the Kuiper Belt. There, the transmission cut off as the Titan's engines flared to life. Cole didn't hesitate. "All hands battle stations. Echo, Faye, give me fleet command." The AI's eyes burned brighter. "Transferring control. Welcome back, Admiral." Pluto's ice shattered completely as the Guardians ascended, their black hulls blotting out the stars. The Vorak flagship Worldbreaker tore through the void like a blade of obsidian, its jagged spires crackling with dark energy. High Admiral Zorath stood on the command dais, his forearms clasped behind his carapace as he watched Sol's pale light glint off his fleet. 1,000 ships, each capable of glassing a planet, now surrounded the cradle of humanity. "Pathetic," Zorath hissed, his mandibles clicking in amusement. The human defense fleet was a scattering of outdated cruisers and retrofitted mining vessels. The USN Defiance led them, a ship barely a third the size of his lightest destroyer. "Open a channel," Zorath commanded. The holographic face of Captain Ryan Blake flickered to life before him, jaw set, eyes burning. "Last chance, human," Zorath sneered. "Surrender your world and, well, make the extinction painless." Blake didn't flinch. Funny, we were about to say the same thing. Zorath's laughter echoed through the bridge. "You have nothing. No fleet, no weapons, no hope." Blake's grin was sharp. "You're right, we don't." Then the alarm screamed. "Admiral!" A Vorak sensor officer shrieked. "Massive energy spike directly behind us." Zorath whirled. Space itself rippled, warping like water struck by stone. Then, light. A blinding, searing blue. White tear in reality. Something colossal emerged. The USN Titan was a nightmare given form. A kilometer of blackened armor, scarred by centuries of forgotten wars. Its hull was pitted with weapon ports, each humming to life, with a sound like thunder. Zorath's blood ran cold. "What is that?" On the Defiance's bridge, Blake exhaled. "That's your mistake." The Titan fired. A beam of pure annihilation lanced out, shearing through 3 Vorak battleships like paper. Secondary explosions bloomed in the dark, silent and deadly. "Evasive maneuvers," Zorath bellowed. His fleet scrambled, formations breaking as panic set in. The Titan moved with impossible grace, its engines flaring as it carved through the Vorak lines. "Target that monstrosity," Zorath roared. "All batteries." Fire! A storm of plasma and kinetic rounds streaked toward the Titan. They struck and dissipated harmlessly against its shields. On the Titan's bridge, Admiral Thalia Cole watched the Vorak fleet flail. Echo, Fedi, status. The AI's voice was calm. Shields at Fey primary weapons charged. Suggest we remove their flagship from the equation. Cole smirked. Do it. The Titan turned. Its main cannon, a spinal, mounted monstrosity capable of cracking planets, locked onto the Worldbreaker. Zorath's comms exploded with frantic reports. Shields failing. Engines overheating. Admiral, we can't. The beam hit. The Worldbreaker's shields held for exactly seconds before collapsing. The beam punched through its hull, vaporizing decks, reactors, entire wings of the ship. Zorath was thrown to the deck as explosions rocked the bridge. Impossible, he spat. No species has weapons like this. Blake's voice crackled over the comms again. We're not just any species. The Defiance and the remnants of Earth's fleet surged forward, emboldened. Fighters streaked past, hammering Vorak ships with sudden, desperate fury. Zorath snarled, gripping the armrests of his throne. Fall back, regroup at the rally point. But it was too late. The Titan moved again, flanked by two more Guardians smaller, but no less deadly. Their weapons lit up the void, turning Vorak ships into funeral pyres. On the Defiance, Blake watched the tide turn. All ships, press the attack. Don't let a single one escape. The Vorak fleet, once an unstoppable force, now shattered like glass. Ships collided in their haste to flee, others venting atmosphere as human torpedoes found their marks. Zorath's flagship listed, its engines sputtering. Damage report. Critical hits to all sectors, life support failing. The Admiral clenched his fists. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans were weak, fragile prey. Yet here they were, tearing his empire apart. The Titan loomed closer, its weapons charging for the killing blow. Zorath made his choice. Abandon ship, all hands evacuate. The Titan fired. The Worldbreaker died in silence, its remains scattering across the void. Blake leaned back in his chair, exhaling. Hell of a wake-up call. On the Titan, Cole allowed herself a small smile. Echo, Faye, send a message to Earth Command. The AI pulsed. Message ready. Cole's voice was steel. Tell them the Guardians are home. The battle over Earth raged like a storm of fire and steel. Vorak warships filled the void, their black hulls blotting out the stars. Human defenders fought back with everything they had, patrol frigates, refitted mining barges, even jury, rigged asteroid guns. But the tide was turning. Captain Ryan Blake gripped the armrests of his command chair as the Defiance shuddered under another hit. Evasive pattern Delta, he barked. The ship lurched sideways, barely avoiding a plasma volley from a Vorak destroyer. Shields at Fey %, Lieutenant Cho reported, her voice tight. Portside railguns overheating. Blake watched the tactical display. The Vorak fleet was tightening its net. Then, movement. A massive signature dropped out of FTL right on top of the enemy formation, the USN Titan. The Guardian-class dreadnought was a relic of another age, its blackened hull scarred but unbroken. It moved with terrifying precision, its main cannon already charging. All ships, Blake said, grinning. The cavalry just arrived. Inside the gutted hangar bay of the Vorak carrier Bloodfang, Sergeant Jake Morrison fought for his life. The gravity generators were shot, leaving him floating in zero, amid sparking wreckage and frozen corpses. His helmet display flickered, oxygen warnings blinking red. A shadow moved in the darkness. Morrison twisted just as a serrated blade sliced past his visor. Vorak elite Crix loomed before him, his carapace armor gleaming under emergency lights. The champion gladiator was twice Morrison's size, his four arms each holding a different weapon. You humans die so easily, Crix hissed through his translator. Morrison kicked off a bulkhead, dodging another swipe. He grabbed a floating piece of shrapnel, jagged metal, about the length of his forearm. Not much, but it would have to do. Funny, Morrison said, breathing hard. I was just thinking the same about you. Crix lunged. Morrison barely avoided the strike, but the Vorak's tail whipped around, slamming him into the wall. Pain flared through his ribs. His vision swam. The gladiator loomed closer, mandibles clicking in amusement. No clever last words. Morrison spat blood inside his helmet. Then he saw it, a ruptured power conduit, sparking wildly behind Crix. Yeah, he said, duck. He hurled the shrapnel. It wasn't aimed at Crix, it struck the conduit. The explosion threw them both backward. Crix slammed into a support beam, his armor cracking. Morrison barely caught himself on a dangling cable. The Vorak roared, pushing off the wall with terrifying speed. Morrison braced. Then the entire ship rocked violently. A deafening boom echoed through the hull. The Titan had just punched a hole through the Bloodfang's spine. Crix stumbled, off balance. Morrison didn't hesitate. He launched himself forward, driving his combat knife into the gap in the Vorak's armor. Black blood sprayed. Crix snarled, grabbing Morrison's wrist, but the sergeant twisted, shoving the blade deeper. You bleed red too, Morrison growled. The Vorak's grip slackened. His forearms went limp. Morrison yanked the knife free as Crix's body drifted away. The hangar bay shuddered again. The Bloodfang was breaking apart. Time to go, on the bridge of the Titan. Admiral Thalia Cole watched the battle unfold. The Guardian, class dreadnought, was a beast unleashed, its weapons tearing through Vorak ships like paper. Direct hit on their command cruiser, Commander Hale reported. Their formations collapsing. Cole allowed herself a grim smile. The Vorak had expected an easy victory. They hadn't counted on the past coming back to haunt them. Admiral. The comms officer's voice was urgent. We're receiving a signal from the Worldbreaker. It's Emperor Vexis. The main screen flickered. The Vorak Emperor's crimson eyes burned with fury. You think this changes anything? Vexis snarled. Your pitiful fleet is still outnumbered. Cole leaned forward. You're right, we are outnumbered. She tapped a command into her console. But we're not alone. Across the battlefield, more Guardian-class signatures blinked into existence. Ancient warships awakened from their slumber. Vexis' face twisted. Impossible. The transmission cut as the Titan's main cannon fired again. Cole turned to her crew. Let's finish this. Morrison barely made it to the escape pod. The Bloodfang was coming apart around him, Vorak and human alike scrambling for survival. He slammed the launch button just as the carrier's reactor went critical. The pod shot clear as the explosion lit up the void. Outside, the battle raged on. But now, the humans were winning. The Guardian fleet carved through the Vorak armada, their weapons unlike anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Morrison let out a shaky breath. They'd done it. Now it was time to end the war. The air inside the Worldbreaker tasted of scorched metal and ionized plasma. Admiral Thalia Cole's boots magnetized to the deck as she advanced through the ruined corridors of the Vorak flagship, her pulse rifle humming with charge. Captain Blake moved beside her, his armor scorched from their boarding pod's violent entry. The ship trembled around them as the Titan's main cannon pounded its shields from outside. 30 meters to the throne room, Blake said, checking his wrist display. Sensors show one massive life sign, Vexis. Cole ejected a spent thermal clip from her rifle, and he'll be waiting. They rounded the final corridor to find the doors already blasted open. Emperor Vexis stood atop his dais, his 4 crimson eyes burning through the smoke. His black armor pulsed with dark energy, the plasma glaive in his primary hands casting an eerie glow across the vaulted chamber. Humans, Vexis boomed, his voice like grinding tectonic plates. You invade my sanctum, you who should be extinct. Cole didn't slow. She raised her rifle and fired. The plasma bolts ricocheted off an invisible barrier inches from Vexis's chest. The Emperor laughed, a sound like shattering glass. Your weapons are toys. He raised the glaive, and the air itself rippled. A force like a freight train hurled Cole and Blake against the far wall. Blake groaned, rolling to his knees. Okay, that is new. Vexis descended the steps, each footfall cracking the deck. I will peel the flesh from your bones and broadcast your screams to your pitiful world. Cole spat blood, pushing herself up. You talk too much, she tapped her wrist comm. Echo, face status. The AI's voice crackled in her earpiece. Guardian fleet has engaged the Vorak Armada. Enemy forces are at face strength, but Admiral, the Titan cannot fire on the Worldbreaker without risking your position. Blake unholstered his sidearm, a relic from the Martian uprising, its barrel modified with stolen Vorak tech. Then we do this the old-fashioned way. Vexis lunged, his glaive carved through the air where Blake had stood a second before. The captain ducked, firing 3 rounds point, blank into the Emperor's ribs. The specialized rounds cracked the bio, armor ichor seeping through the fractures. Vexis roared, backhanding Blake across the room. Cole charged, swinging her rifle like a club. The stock shattered against Vexis's jaw. He grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off the ground. You are ants, he snarled. Cole's vision darkened at the edges. She groped at her belt, fingers closing around the hacking module Echo. They had given her, with the last of her strength, she jammed it into the exposed wiring of Vexis's armor. The Emperor stiffened. Alarms blared through the throne room as the module's viral payload surged into the Worldbreaker's systems. Admiral, Echo face said, I have control. Vexis dropped her, clawing at his own armor as if it burned him. What have you done? Cole gasped, rubbing her throat. You should have left us buried. The Worldbreaker shuddered violently. Emergency lights flashed crimson as the ship's self-destruct sequence activated. Blake staggered to her side. We need to go, now, Vexis screamed, swinging his glaive in a wild arc. Cole barely dodged, the blade slicing through her armor's shoulder plating. She fired her last 3 rounds into his knee. The Emperor crashed down, his weight shaking the deck. Echo Faye, Cole yelled. Bring the Titan to bear. Already locking on. Blake grabbed her arm, dragging her toward the exit, behind them. Vexis struggled to rise, his voice a guttural snarl. You cannot win. The Vorak Empire spans thousands of worlds. Cole looked back as the blast doors sealed between them. Then you'd better start running. They sprinted through the disintegrating ship, Vorak soldiers scattering in panic as bulkheads collapsed around them. Their boarding pod waited where they'd left it, its hatch still open. Blake punched the launch sequence the second they were inside. The pod rocketed away just as the Titan's main cannon fired. A beam of pure white energy lanced through the Worldbreaker's heart, splitting the flagship in 2. The shockwave sent their pod spinning, alarms blaring as the autopilot fought to stabilize. Cole watched through the viewport as the Vorak Emperor's throne room and the man himself were consumed by fire. Blake exhaled, slumping into his seat. Hell of a day. Cole activated her comm. Echo, phase status report. Vorak fleet is in full retreat. Guardian ships are pursuing. Casualty estimates suggest they won't be returning to Sol anytime soon. A slow smile spread across Cole's face. Good. Outside, the shattered remains of the Worldbreaker drifted toward Jupiter's gravity. Well, a funeral pyre for an empire that had dared to challenge Earth. The Titan loomed against the stars, its ancient hull scarred but unbroken, just like humanity. The wreckage of the Vorak flagship burned across Earth's upper atmosphere, its shattered hull painting streaks of fire through the dawn sky. Aboard the USN Titan, Admiral Thalia Cole watched the debris field spread across 3 continents. Her hands still trembled from triggering the Worldbreaker's self-destruct sequence. The bridge smelled of ozone and blood, the deck vibrating beneath her boots as the ancient dreadnought's engines stabilized their orbit. All Vorak vessels are retreating, reported Lieutenant Cho from the tactical station. His uniform sleeve was torn where a console had exploded during the battle. FDL signatures confirm they're jumping clear of the system. Captain Blake limped onto the bridge, his left arm in a makeshift sling. We did it, he said, voice rough with exhaustion. The bastards are running. Cole didn't smile, not yet. Status on President Carter. Marine extraction team reached him 15 minutes ago, Blake said. Vorak left him alive, probably wanted to parade him before the Senate after our surrender. The main view screen flickered to life, showing Earth hanging blue and fragile below them. Around it, the remaining Guardian-class ships formed a defensive perimeter. Their blackened hulls bore the scars of centuries, but their weapons still hummed with lethal promise. Echo, Faye's hologram, materialized beside Cole, its blue light casting eerie shadows across the battle-worn bridge. "The fleet stands ready, Admiral. All systems operational at Faye capacity." "Good," Cole said, "because this isn't over." Down on Earth, in the ruins of Geneva's Orbital Defense Command, President Elias Carter straightened his torn jacket before the Galaxy-wide broadcast array. The Vorak had broken 3 of his ribs, but he refused medical attention. Not until the message was sent, the camera drones activated with a soft chime. Across 17,000 inhabited worlds, screens flickered to life showing the scarred human leader. "People of the Galactic Federation," Carter began, his voice steady despite the pain. "You have witnessed the Vorak Empire's unprovoked aggression. You have seen their lies exposed." He paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. "But you have also witnessed something else today." Above him, the Titan's massive silhouette passed across the sun, casting the ruins in temporary shadow. "Humanity has always been a species of survivors," Carter continued. "When the first fleet disappeared centuries ago, we rebuilt. When the Vorak bombed our colonies, we fought back, and when they came for our home," he gestured upward, "we showed them why that was a mistake." On the bridge of the Titan, Cole watched the broadcast with clenched fists. Blake stood beside her, his good hand resting on the grip of his sidearm. "The Guardians have awakened," Carter declared. "Not just these ships, but the spirit they represent. From this day forward, let the galaxy understand, humanity is not prey. We are the storm." The transmission ended abruptly, cutting to the emblem of Earth's government. Across the galaxy, 1,000 species sat in stunned silence. Aboard the retreating Vorak command ship, Emperor Vexus's surviving advisors watched the broadcast with mounting dread. Their sensors showed the Guardian fleet powering weapons, their targeting systems locking onto Vorak space. "Set course for the homeworld," the senior advisor ordered, full emergency speed. Back in Earth orbit, Cole finally allowed herself to breathe. Echo status on the other sleeper ships. The AI's hologram pulsed with new data streams. 12 additional Guardian-class vessels detected in the Kuiper Belt. Reactor signatures confirm they're coming online now. Blake whistled low. "That makes 23 super dreadnoughts. Enough to make sure no one ever threatens Earth again." Cole finished. She turned to her tactical officer. "Lieutenant, deploy repair drones to all damaged stations. I want full battle readiness within 6 hours." "Yes, Admiral," Joe hesitated. And after that, Cole exchanged a glance with Blake. The captain's grin was all teeth. "After that," Cole said, "we pay the Vorak a visit." Deep in the Titan's core, ancient systems hummed to life. Weapon ports slid open, shield generators flared, and across the blackened hull, faded lettering became visible as centuries of cosmic dust burned away. USN Titan, first and last of her kind. Echo Faye's voice echoed through the ship's intercom. All systems nominal, fleet synchronization complete, awaiting orders. Cole settled into the command chair, feeling the ship's power thrum through the deck plating. Set course for the Vorak homeworld, maximum speed. The Titan's engines flared blue, white as it turned from Earth. Behind it, the rest of the Guardian fleet fell into formation. Their weapons charged, their shields glowed. Their presence sent a message clearer than any broadcast. Humanity had awoken, and the galaxy would never be the same.